So we're talking with Ray Gautier, and you're the CEO of the Coast Salish Development Corporation. Can you give us a brief overview as to what the corporation is, maybe a little history behind it?
The corporation was formed about 6.5 years ago. The chief and council at that time felt that they had missed out on some business opportunities that were available to them, and basically were taking a position at that time to move forward with, with economic development. And it was new to them and new to the band, and so there were some challenges. One of the things that we did initially is we separated business, from the organization, and that was a very strategic move in that what we were trying to accomplish was, making both pieces of the organization at that time transparent. Like in the past, business and administration, all of the funds and expenses were kind of in one pot. And in moving forward, we felt that it would be important to, to have transparency around the businesses and to have them separate so that the community would, be aware, of how these individual companies were doing.
Does it function much like the Nanaimo Economic Development Corporation does in relation to the city being arm's length?
It's more complicated
Than that.
than that. Prior to us becoming part of the First Nations land management regime, we were in a position where everything that we did from an economic development perspective had to be vetted through Indian Affairs.
Federally.
And that created lots of challenges because they don't necessarily move at the same speed of business. And so the concern in moving forward was we wanted to have more control over our destiny.
More self-determination.
Or self-determination. And so First Nations land management made a lot of sense to us because we weren't part of a land management regime. And moving in that direction basically was as you said, a move towards self-determination and self-governance. And we were fortunate to get into that process because at the time that we I guess decided we were going to go in that direction, there was 80 bands that were ahead of us, and there was not a lot of money that the federal government was putting forward in order to go through that process, because it's not a cheap process to go through.
So what actually is the purpose? Is it to serve as a catalyst for business? Is it to assist with funding, marketing, all of the above?
Well, that goes back to your question that I didn't answer.
Okay.
And that is that it's both, it puts the band in a unique situation. And that situation is that we actually now wear two different hats. We wear the hat of a real estate developer in the truest sense, but we also wear the hat of municipality. And so the land management piece, basically puts the band in a position where it manages its own land. Like right now, we manage and make all of the decisions on land, ourselves. It's a good thing, but it comes with some responsibility, and that responsibility is that we have to make sure that that all of the land development processes are in place. So in the past 3 years, while we've been going through the First Nations land management process, we've had to put in all of the municipal pieces that any typical municipality would have: law, development application process, building permit process, DCC charges, etc. Like we've had to
enforcement.
Enforcement, exactly. We've had to put all of those pieces together. And I mean, we started with nothing. Literally, we started from square one. So
there was an idea.
There was an idea.
And the idea grew.
And the idea grew, yes. And it's not an easy path to get to. But we're now at a point, and while that was going on, we were seeking funds from the federal government to bring water and sewer from Ladysmith, which is a part of that puzzle, right? And getting the money was one thing, and then negotiating the agreement with the town was a whole other piece. So so just as it relates to land management and on-reserve development, we've basically accomplished a lot of things that we've had to put a lot of pieces together that previously weren't there in a very short period of time. The end result is that we now have land on IR12, which is what we call our Oyster Bay development, that now basically puts us in a position where we can now operate both as a municipality in terms of, working with outside developers and outside interests or partners. And we have a process in place that is the same. It mirrors essentially, any municipality. And so we're taking care of the community's interests overall by making sure that those processes are adhered to. And we're now in a position where, as a land developer and an economic development perspective, in terms of making money, we're now in a position to attract partners or even do our own building and leasing out land or leasing out buildings and stuff.
So as a revenue generator, this is part of the goal?
Absolutely. It's always been part of the goal. Like from an economic development perspective, everything that we do here, well, let me rephrase that, 99% of the things that we do here are with the goal of making money.
Can you describe some of the key points that the corporation is involved in, the key areas of operation?
Well, we're in about 6 different sectors right now. Land development. Well, before I go there, I should make it clear that the band has 2 different kinds of opportunities. We have opportunities that are on development opportunities, and then we have off-reserve development opportunities. And we've recently gone through an economic development planning process again. We did one 5 years ago, and we've now updated it. And one of the interesting things that have come out is that from when we started 5 years ago to where we are now, we've realized that 80% of our future revenues will come from off-reserve projects, which is significant. So 20% of our opportunities in the future will come from on-reserve opportunities. So we have on-reserve opportunities in real estate development. Oyster Bay is a 65-acre development that will include hotels, assisted living, single-family homes, condos.
Mixed usages.
Mixed use and commercial kind of thing. And we're ready. Like in the next couple of months, we're gonna basically turn this part of the highway into a real estate development. You're going to see billboards, you're going to see banners and stuff, and we're ready to go. We have an opportunity with a local credit union that we're in the process. We have an LOI on that, and we're working with architects right now in order to get that deal, basically to a point where we can, get to lease, which is, what it's all about. We need to start engaging, in that. And we're also talking to hotels like the Best Western, to see what their level of interest is in locating here. We've had favorable response from them. Outside of reserve, we actually last night, we got subdivision approval on a 535 unit subdivision in the heart of Ladysmith, Holland Creek. That opportunity is with a partner, and we've been working with them for about 2 years to get it to this point.
That'd be a pretty big ticket item. What would the dollar value on that be?
Well, the lots, I can tell you, will sell, at around $150,000 to $200,000 a unit. So if you do the math,
That's right.
It's a big number. We know it's a long-term project. It's 7 to 10 years.
Obviously partnering with Ladysmith.
No, in this case, we partnered with a private company, and that partnership came because what we did is we had access to Crown land, and we leveraged our access to the Crown land. We are pulling it out of a woodlot, that is currently, ours, but we're going to pull 140 acres out of this woodlot, and we're replacing that 140 acres with, we negotiated a deal with the government to take 140 acres out of a woodlot. They're going to replace that 140 with forestry land that's elsewhere. We're buying it like it's a purchase from the provincial government, and from that purchase we bring the land to the table, and our partners are experienced developers, and they're going to basically provide the capital, to get the project going. And we hope to have the first 32 to 35 lots actually, available for sale within 12 months.
It's incredible.
It's huge. It's huge.
It's huge. There's a lot of resource-based activities, are there not?
Yes. We 3 years ago signed a deal with Fortis, at the time Terrace and Gas. They built a $200 million LNG project up in Mount Hayes. And out of that project we negotiated $10 million in direct contracts, which basically spawned a company called Deer Point Developments. We were in a position through those direct contracts to employ 15 to 25 band members for about a 3-year period. Out of that came significant training opportunities and skills. They developed some skills that they've now taken into the private industry. We then, part of that deal was we negotiated a 7.5% interest on that project. It's a $200 million project. And we were confident that, that will bring, some significant revenues into the community for the next 40 years.
Long-term plan?
Long-term plan, yeah.
There's also some aquaculture involvement, is there not?
Are we talking gooey ducks?
Whatever the market is.
And our longer term plans include sea urchins, sea cucumbers, gooey ducks, and we currently harvest about 250,000 pounds of clams a year. But the real focus for us in the last 4 years has been gooey ducks. We've made it obvious to the federal government and to the local communities that